The book we're going to read today is called Big Al. It's one of my favorite books because it's about this kind of different looking fish. If you saw him under the water, you would probably get a little bit scared. But he was one of the sweetest, kindest fish you've ever met. But you wouldn't know that by looking at him. You would only know that if you got to know him by being his friend. Look at all the fishies under the sea. Cierra la puerta, por favor. Big Al. In the wide blue sea, there was a very friendly fish named Big Al. You could not find a nicer fish. But Big Al was also very, very scary looking. Poor Big Al. Other fish seemed to have at least one friend. Some had many, but Big Al had none. He did not really blame the other fish. How could he expect little fish to trust a great big fish with eyes and skin and teeth like this? So Big Al was lonely and cried big salty tears. The fish were scared to play with him. They did not know he was kind. They were just looking at the outside of him and saying, "Oh no, that fish looks very scary. We don't want to play with him." But was he a scary fish? No, he was a kind fish. You just couldn't tell. But Big Al really wanted friends, so he worked at it. First, he tried wrapping himself up with seaweed. He thought this was a great disguise, but no one else did. Who wants to stop and talk to a floating plant that has big sharp teeth? Not me. Then he thought that if he puffed himself up round, the other fish would laugh and see how clever and silly he could be. But all they saw was how big he could be, and they steered clear. That made him even more scared. Very early one morning, Big Al went down to the bottom and flopped and wiggled himself into the sand until he was almost all covered up. He looked much smaller. When the other fish came near, Big Al talked and joked with them and had a delightful time. But then one scratchy little grain of sand got stuck in his gills, and then achoo! All of the clouds of sand cleared away, and all the fish were gone. Big Al even changed his color one day so he could look like he belonged to a school of tiny fish passing by. He bubbled along with them for a while, laughing and feeling like he was just one of the crowd. But he was so big and so clumsy that when all the tiny fish darted to the left and quickly back to the right, Big Al just plowed straight ahead. He went bumping and thumping right into the little fish. Before he could even say, "Excuse me," they were gone, and he was all alone again, sadder than ever. Just when Big Al was starting to be sure that he would never have a single friend, something happened. He was floating along sadly, watching some of the smaller fish and wishing they would come closer. As he watched, a net dropped down silently from above, and in an instant, they were caught. Uh-oh. Big Al forgot all about being lonely, and he forgot all about being sad. His eyes bulged out bigger and rounder than ever, and with a mighty flip of his tail, he opened his mouth and charged straight at the net. The net was strong, but Big Al was stronger. He ripped right through it, and all the little fish rushed out through the hole. He saved them. But when Big Al tried to turn around and go out of the hole, he got tangled in the net and he was stuck. The net went higher and higher toward the bright surface of the sea, and the little fish watched Big Al as he disappeared above them. When the little fish were able to speak again, all they talked about was the huge, wonderful fish that had saved them. How great to be free, but what a shame that the big fellow had been captured. Now they knew what a kind fish he was. After Big Al saved them, now they understood that he was not a scary fish trying to hurt or eat them. He just wanted to be their friend. Just then, there was a tremendous crashing splash above them, and the small fish dashed away. Was it the net again? Not at all. It was Big Al. Those fishermen took one look at him and threw him right back into the ocean. He was free. And now there was one huge, puffy, scary, fierce-looking fish in the sea who has more friends than anyone else. Big Al. And there he is, Big Al, swimming with all his little fishy friends. The end. So sometimes when we see somebody or something that maybe looks a little bit scary looking, wait and get to know them. Try to be their friend. Even if they look a little bit different on the outside, inside they might be the most beautiful person that you've ever met. The kindest, sweetest, coolest, funniest person you've met. But they may not always look like you and me. We don't know until we get to know them as a friend. I love you and miss you all. Hope you enjoyed Big Al. Mwah.